Today I have 4 of my top core training exercises for you specifically as a goalie that's going to help improve your stability and your speed on the ice. Way it matters. Welcome back to Goalie Training Pro TV. I'm Maria Mountain. I am an exercise physiologist and I specialize in off-ice training for hockey goalies, which means I help you win more games with fewer injuries. And today we are talking about core training, so let's get at it. The first exercise is going to look a little bit basic from the surface, but it's really an important one because the foundation of core stability is stamina. So we want to make sure that there's good control, there's good stamina in the muscles that help support your torso. And back in the day, we used to get very upset about people using the term core. What does that mean? I think we kind of understand now that it really integrates sort of below your armpits to above your knees. That sort of, like your torso, hips area, and then, specifically kind of that mid-range. I don't know the exact reference article, so I'm not gonna say, I can't tell you what the research article is to support this, but I know when I had goalies that were drafted by NHL teams, more than one of the teams wanted them to be able to side plank for at least 90 seconds. And the reason was that was supposed to reduce the risk of sports hernia. And I've kind of followed that through. So what we're gonna start with is just a 90-second side plank. And we're gonna start from the knees. And we're gonna start at 30 seconds actually, and you'll build up to 90 seconds. So I've got my knees bent to about 90 degrees. My elbow is underneath my shoulder. My hips are forward. I'm not in a little pike position like this. And I'm just in a nice straight line. And I'm going to hold that starting at 30 seconds, building up until I can do 90 seconds on each side. So don't forget to flip and do your other side. When I can do 90 seconds on each side from my knees, then I'm going to go to 90 seconds from my feet. And I put my feet in this position. And I got this from Stu McGill, who's a spine biomechanist. And what he says is the side plank isn't meant to be a balance or a stability exercise. It's meant to put tension on your torso, on your abdominal obliques. So let's not make it a balance exercise. I put my bottom foot forward and my top foot back, and that kind of keeps my hips fairly square. Sometimes you see athletes and they kind of roll forward. I think they're actually trying to pull in, their rectus abdominis to help as their abdominal obliques fatigue. So we'll go in this position to sort of keep those hips square, keep my chest square. Same thing, I'm just holding that, and I'm gonna start with a 30-second hold and build up over time to 90 seconds. Why do we start off planking from the knee? And I use planking from the knee all the time because what I find is when I have athletes planking from their feet, I ask them what feels the most tired, and it's their shoulder. They get the most trouble with their shoulder, either discomfort just from the position or their shoulder fatigues. Well, I'm not trying to make this a shoulder exercise. I want it to be, an abdominal exercise and a lateral hip exercise. So when we go to our knees, it takes some of that load off the shoulder, lets us get a good sustained hold and build some endurance in those abdominal obliques and lateral stabilizers. This is completely anecdotal. I haven't read the research. If you know the specific research article, like from a journal, so I'd love it if you drop the link in the comments there because I'd like to read it. But more than one of the athletes I've trained who plays in the NHL, part of their team protocol was that they be able to do 90-second side plank on each side, with the rationale given that reduced their risk of sports hernia. And I know sports hernias aren't a huge deal in goalies, not the same as they are in skaters, but it is a thing and it does happen sometimes. So let's really build up that abdominal wall. I think, I'm not sure, maybe Mike Smith had abdominal surgery for a sports hernia. So that's why we start there. Even though it looks basic, I think it's just a good foundation movement to start you off. Call this one just Rotary Core with the Superband. And I want to set it up so that the Superband is resisting my rotation. So I can bring it and put it on the front of this shoulder. I could also put it on the front of this shoulder, but then I just have to kind of rotate myself away from you. So I'll flip back over here so that you can see what's going on. But what I'm going to do, and I'm going to start off fairly slow because I want to have to kind of find the strength, find the stability as I go through. So as when we go fast, we can make a lot of mistakes and that speed covers it up. So we're going to go for about a count of 3. I'm going to think about engaging my abdominals, think about leading with my head and my hands as I rotate around and come back. So rotating up and around, pausing, so you can see how hard it is. I have to use my adductors. This band is pulling me sideways, so I have to stay strong in both my torso and my hip to stabilize it. And this is probably actually a little bit too strong of a band for me to use. I'm using a 1-inch Superband. I'd probably be better with the 1/2 inch. But be aware if you're trying to cheat and do things like sit back in your hips. That's something you do on the ice. You'll also probably see it here. So we're trying to go for about a count of 3 around and 3 controlling it coming back, and then we would switch sides. You'll do about 6 repetitions on each side for 2 to 3 sets. Remember, we're going to start off nice and slow right now. Speed will come later in the off season and in season training. Should also mention, you probably noticed I had my knee pads on for that last exercise. Otherwise, it's really uncomfortable on your knees, so you're going to need knee pads for that one. I'm going to keep them on for this one just to make it a little more comfortable. It's a stability ball rotator. So what I'm going to do is I have my Anchor trainer, which is similar to a cable column, really. You could use cable column, you could use resistance band, whatever you have access to. I'm going to give this ball a hug, and I'm going to hold on to it with my outside hand. This hand I'm going to keep here in case, and really I'm staggered back of the cable. You can see the cable's coming out here and I'm behind it. I don't want to be in front of it. Otherwise, if this rope or cable slipped up, it's going to come and snap me one right in the face. But I'm going to keep this hand here just as a little bit of protection as well. My knees are about a little wider than hip width apart to give me a good stable base. I'm going to brace with my abdominals and really feel that I'm using them to create that rotation. I'm going to stay tall in my torso. I don't want to sort of crunch around the ball like that. I also want to make sure, I'll get this out of the way so you can see, I want to keep my hips my pelvis neutral, pointed straight ahead as I rotate around. So I'm just rotating through sort of my upper torso. I'm not rotating my pelvis as I go. So it's not going to be a big range of motion. Don't try to make it a big range of motion. It's really just going to be sort of from here to here that you go. And you'll feel when you're at the end, you're not going to try and force it just to get an extra inch or 2 out of it. You're going to do 2 to 3 sets of 10 on each side with a 2-1-2-1 tempo. So you're going to lower for a count of 2, a little pause, lift for a count of 2, a little pause. You'll notice to this point we haven't included any crunching type of exercises. There are a few specific types of crunches that I will use, but what I wanted to give you today were exercises that would specifically help your performance on the ice. Like you'd actually notice, like, oh yeah, now when I lead with my head and my hands, my hips, I can really snap my hips around, or when I'm trying to pivot from my RVH, I really have good stability and power transfer into the ice. Or exercises that can reduce your risk of injury, like we talked about with the side plank that we started off with. I know a lot of you still use crunches, so if you want me to do a video giving you some of the crunch variations that I still use and when and why I use them, just drop a comment below to let me know. The last core exercise I'm going to give you today is a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, a little bit injury prevention, but I also really like it because I think it's a good what they'll call anti-extension exercise. Sometimes when we're putting a load on our anterior abdominals, on our hip flexor, we'll fall into that hyperextension in our low back. And we want to sort of teach you how to use your abdominals to resist that, how to keep your ribs down to maintain a stable torso and a stable pelvis, which gives a good platform, a nice stable platform. I use the word stable 3 times, I think. Stable platform for your hips to do what they need to do. You've heard me talk quite a bit about how some of you use your low back as sort of a supplemental hip joint to get extension. We want to teach you how to control that. So it's just a supine tabletop activation. You'll see what I mean. The position is just a tabletop position. We're going to activate our hip flexors while we do a little extension. I'll show you. Here's exactly what it looks like. So for this one, you're going to bring both knees up towards your chest, and not as high as you can, just bring them up towards your chest. And then you're going to push your opposite hand onto your opposite knee and just gently push, like maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10 effort, just to really activate that deep hip flexor. You're going to brace with your abdominals. You're going to think about using your abdominals to kind of keep your ribs down, because what you're going to do next is extend this leg out, keeping those ribs down or keeping your back in a neutral position. What we don't want to see is, as you extend, we don't want to see your pelvis tilt forward and this space to increase. There you're not stabilizing your torso. You're not demonstrating core stability. So we push here, activate that deep hip flexor. We brace with our abdominals to keep our ribs down. We keep breathing, and we should see no change in our torso position. And the tempo is 3, 0, 3, 0. So 3 in and 3 out, and you're going to do 6 on each side. 2 to 3 sets of 6 on each side. So those are 4 of the top core stability exercises, core control exercises that are going to help you as a goalie on the ice. I do think actually there's some value in doing some core stabilization work actually on the ice in your skates, because once we take away this lovely thing called friction, that helps support us, it does change the game. So not to get gimmicky about it, but there is some value. I did a video about it maybe a couple years ago. You can find it here. So check that out and maybe add a little bit into, rest between sets, or if your goalie partner's in the net taking drills, you can work on this at the sideboards. I also want to be clear that core training is just a part of your properly designed training program. It isn't an entity in itself. It isn't like, well, this is my core workout day. It's just part of your regular workouts. I put it in our functional strength workouts. Sometimes it's in our speed workouts. Sometimes it's in our stamina workouts even, so that then we get good at stabilizing with our torso, even when we're under respiratory distress. We're breathing hard and trying to stabilize. So it isn't its own thing. It's just a part of your good training program. And if you need help, or you want me to put together those workouts so you know exactly how it fits in, so you're covering all your bases, just check out the link in the description and I'll tell you a little more about it. I'm interested to know if these are exercises that you already commonly use, and if they are, let me know what you like about them or what you don't like about them in the comments below. I'm always interested to get your feedback. And you know what's next? That's right. Now it's time to hit the like button. You've been waiting for it all video long. Now is the time to go. Hit subscribe. If you've already subscribed, hit the bell. Thank you very much for stopping by and watching. I will see you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Love you guys.